For years, we've talked about Turkey's Citizenship by investment program. Buy a home or apartment, get a passport in less than a year. And over the years, Turkey has become increasingly popular with clients at Nomad Capitalist. Today, I'm going to tell you why, and you can be the judge for yourself. Now, one of the things that we do run into when it comes to any country like Turkey, we recently talked about Egypt and their Citizenship by investment program, which is a little bit cheaper and a lot worse quality passport. People bring up, I don't want to be a citizen of a Muslim country. I don't want to be a resident of a Muslim country. I do think sometimes people make certain exemptions based on what they think the severity of the religion is in these places. For example, we just sold out Nomad Capitalist Live, our annual event in Kuala Lumpur. It will be in Kuala Lumpur again next year. I'm sure someone's not coming because it's a Muslim country, but you've heard me talk about it for years. The fact it's a multicultural country, you have people from all different religions and backgrounds, and I think people have kind of come to understand that Malaysia is a different vibe. For some reason, people don't entirely think that about places like Turkey, or Egypt, or Saudi Arabia, which has a permanent residence by investment program. So we do have some of those clients. But what we're seeing more from people is, I want 1 foot in the West and 1 foot in the East. That's something that I've increasingly talked to you about. And I've been, of course, for the entire time we've been here, an advocate for second citizenship. Now I'm an advocate more so for third citizenship, and I'm an advocate for being part of a multipolar world. Cyrus Jansen talked at Nomad Capitalist Live about what's going on with BRICS. Turkey, for example, wants to join BRICS. A NATO member wants to join the BRICS alliance of countries that feel like the Western world has not given them a fair shake, and they are now substantial enough to fight back and to exit that Western-dominated system. And I think that what a lot of the guests who heard Cyrus talk thought to themselves, yeah, I want to have some kind of foothold. You do want to be cautious what citizenships you get. You know, if you have a Swiss bank, for example, they're going to want to know all your citizenships. And so it's a good thing to ask, hey, if I become Turkish, is there going to be any issue with that? We just asked for someone recently, there wasn't an issue, but you always want to check on that kind of stuff and be aware. You know, if citizenship is too much, residence could be the option. But let me talk to you about what people are telling us and why more people want Turkish citizenship. First, let's recap what it is. For a $400,000 investment in real estate in Turkey, you will be given citizenship in a matter of months. You can do the whole process in under a year. Now, the speed here depends on how quickly you find a property. We have local agents who engage in resale properties. So most people you'll go to, they want to sell you properties from a developer. They often get paid 5, 10, 15% or even more commission from those people. So of course, you know, when someone's making $60,000 to sell you an overpriced property, they're going to be very interested to do that. My philosophy and what I did personally when I bought a property in Istanbul was I want to buy from the resale market. What you have to do in that case is you're going to spend a little bit more than $400,000. So the property has to appraise and it has to come in lira terms. So on the day that you're going to file, the amount you paid in lira has to convert at the central bank rate to US dollars at 400,000, and it has to be appraised. And so some of the appraisals on resale properties come in a little bit light because there aren't as many comps. Whereas obviously if you're buying an overpriced new building, the comp is everybody's paid the same price. That's the comp until 3 years from now when you're allowed to sell the property. You go to sell it, and as some of the agents we work with will tell you, you might sell it for 50 cents on the dollar. That's what pays for that lucrative commission, that guy that didn't charge you very much on the front end, but they charge you a lot in the back end, right? We charge you more on the front end, and obviously we don't make claims to the success of any of your real estate investments, but we're going to make sure that we're not, recommending stuff where people are getting fat commissions. We're recommending you stuff the kind that I would buy myself. But anyway, $400,000, if you're buying resale property, as I've always recommended, you're probably looking at 4.25, something like that. And once you buy that property, which, you know, depending on how quickly you decide which one you want, is it a place you want to live? Some people want it as an option because Istanbul is a global hub. Some people want it as an investment in an up-and-coming market like Izmir, where there's more meat on the bone for appreciation. Some people just want it as, hey, I don't care what I buy, just get me whatever is interesting for the citizenship. Once you've figured out your property, you then file the application, you get residence, you go through the background check process, they grant your citizenship. And now you've got a Turkish passport that is not as good for travel in the Western world. You can't travel to Europe without a visa. You can't travel to the U.S. or Canada or Australia or New Zealand. Turkey, has okay, they're in NATO, but they've had some strained relations with the EU, for example. The U.S., it's not the level of a country that they can go to the U.S. without a visa. It's not in the European Union. But what they're strong in is because they are a growing economy, because they have a large population. Pretty much every country in Central America, South America, and the Caribbean, you can go visa-free. Pretty much every country in Asia that people can go to, you don't need a visa. Turkey's a stronger passport than, let's say, a Caribbean passport in Asia. So, people are looking at this and they're telling us, okay, Caribbean citizenship programs have gone up in price. They basically doubled the price in some cases not very long ago under pressure from the EU. And so it used to be you could go to St. Lucia, where I'm a citizen. I paid $100,000 back in the day for that citizenship. What do I tell you? Get in early, because prices in this business only go up. Now it's going to cost you, you're going to be in the 200,000 plus range for any of those programs where it used to be 100,000 for a single person. And so what we're increasingly seeing is clients saying, well, I can donate 200 or 250 or even 300, depending on my family size, in that range, and I'll never see that money again. Or, okay, I can do the bond option, and, okay, but that's like, I'm not going to make anything on that. If I'm going to donate 250 or 300, especially if I've got a family, I don't need to buy a bigger property in Turkey for my family. I can add everybody on for that same investment. And so, a $100,000 donation before the prices went up in the Caribbean versus $400,000, property purchase. Okay, that was more of an opportunity cost conversation. I can take the other 300 grand and invest it in my business, invest in the stock market, do whatever I'm going to do. I'll come out ahead without the hassle of buying property. Once it gets to 250, 300 versus 400, now it's a much, more difficult equation. It's like, how badly would I have to choose a property to not get 25 or 30 cents on the dollar 3 years from now in a country where, yes, the lira has depreciated, but properties in good neighborhoods have held their value in dollar terms. I've gotten an appraisal on my property a couple of times, and I look at properties selling in literally the same building. I think I paid 2.2 million lira, and there's a property in my building selling for 14. We think it's overpriced, but we think it can probably go for 12 and a half or 13, which means that, in dollar terms, I'm actually up in the last 3 or maybe it's close to 4 years now. And so it's all an opportunity cost conversation. People who are in that entry-level price bracket for citizenship are saying that. What I think clients are also comparing it to is Portugal's Golden Visa program. They've been slow in processing those. There's no more real estate option. So for people who like the idea of owning real estate that feels comfortable, you can't do that in Portugal anymore. Spain, where are they with their Golden Visa program? European programs, people are complaining. The very reason Golden Visas, which are not passports, they're residence permits, but in the case of Portugal, it was 5 to 6 years timeline to citizenship without you really having to live there very much. You did have to learn the language to some basic extent. So there's some stuff there. But the idea was, hey, I can invest 500,000 euros or even less in real estate in Portugal, and I can come out in 6 years with a passport. But now that option's gone, and there's only there's other investments. I happen to think the other investments in Portugal are actually interesting. Spain, maybe not as much. But the point is, people in Europe, the Golden Visa worked too well. Housing prices are up. They did it because housing was in the toilet back in 2010. Hey, how do we get people to come and buy real estate? It worked too well. So now Europeans are pushing back. We don't want people to come and buy our real estate. And so Turkey is kind of won by default in some case, where people are saying, I'll just buy the property and I'll do it. One of the things people have mentioned about buying property overseas is expropriation. And we even did a video, we talked about Bill O'Reilly and, this country's corrupt and that country's corrupt. To me, the United States is one of the most corrupt countries in the world at a high level, not at a low level, but a high level. And the idea that people are worried about their property being taken in Turkey, but not in the U.S. or not in Portugal, I think that's just kind of silly. Whether you like Erdogan or not, he's not interested in your 2-bedroom condo. Okay, even the countries where people actually are taking stuff, I don't think they're coming in like, all right, we're taking your townhouse. They're taking big stuff. But that's not the case in the countries with citizenship by investment. And so I think people are coming to realize, even on an actuarial basis, the odds of my little condo being taken or something happening to it are probably low enough that rather than donating money, I could just buy the property and invest it. So that's a reason I think people are looking more at Turkey's citizenship by investment. We also have more clients who are doing both. I've said that for a long time. Caribbean citizenship and Turkey citizenship complement each other very well, whereas the citizenship countries in the Caribbean, you still have that visa-free travel to Europe. Not to the UK and Ireland in the case of Dominica, but still with the rest of them. And to mainland Europe, you have that. So actually, they are very complementary. If you get those two passports and let's say you gave up your current passport, you would not be able to go to the US, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, maybe a few other smaller countries without a visa. And those other smaller countries would be pretty easy to get visas in. But you could go pretty much everywhere else. And so for someone like me who's from the US, wanted to give up, and in my case did give up US citizenship, I don't have any great desire to go back to the US. So I don't need that as part of my passport profile. And so Malta, it's going to cost me $1 million to get that top tier European passport where I can go everywhere in the world, or I can buy a house in Turkey for $400,000, call it 4.25. I can donate some money in the Caribbean, and I'm out, 25, 30 cents on the dollar, and I've got two passports for the price of one, considering I can sell that asset in Turkey in the future, and potentially I can sell it at a profit. One of the things that people are telling us that they like about Turkey, and by the way, this is not me selling you on Turkey. This is me selling you on being aware of your options. And I think that people sometimes look at, again, Muslim country, or I don't like the president, as if that's a negative. Most people aren't going to leave the United States or their own country because the wrong president gets in. They might complain, but they're not going to leave. So for a country that you're not going to live in, not going to pay tax in, because you don't pay tax to countries you don't live in unless it's the United States, who's the president to me is less relevant. What people are telling us is the political climate where Turkey is a bit more standing its ground is a positive. One concern people always had with Caribbean citizenship countries is, hey, if the U.S. goes down there and says jump, they'll say how high. Now they're keeping their citizenship program after the U.S. for years has been telling like Dominica, hey, we don't like you doing this. They keep doing it, and they use it to fund their country, and they do a beautiful job. But, they did double the prices because the U.S. went to the EU and said, hey, we don't like this, and the EU said, unless you do these things and raise the price, we're going to be difficult with you. Okay, they gave in, so now it costs more. My passport's still just as good, and I paid half the price for my passport. But I think some people are saying, yeah, Turkey's in NATO, and they are literally applying to join BRICS. A little bit of balls there. They've been neutral in the Russia-Ukraine war. Russians can go there, Ukrainians can go there. We get along with everybody, right? I got along with everybody. And I think what clients are looking for is they want a place that's different than where they're from. That's a big one you've heard from me for years. I get that. Even when I was 15, I thought, I'd move to London one day. That's the place. Because like moving to Malaysia, which seemed intriguing to me, seemed like, how do you move to Malaysia? But I understand moving to London. You got to get that out of your head. And if you're not going to move and you're just getting a passport as a backup plan, I think what you want is you want a place that's different, right? If you're American, get a Canadian passport if you qualify for it, but don't go out of your way because it's not really diversifying that much, especially if you plan to keep the U.S. citizenship. Turkish is different. So as long as you figured out, hey, it's not going to, affect anything else you're doing. I see smaller countries, and I just see they have to be much more responsive to their citizens. I think Turkey's kind of in the middle. They're not as responsive to their citizens as a smaller country, and yet, I've seen people get their Turkish passports. It's a more efficient process than most Westerners tell me they go through. Also, I don't think Turkey has the desire or the ability to screw with people who aren't living there. I mean, if you plan on having kids in the future and you would give them Turkish citizenship, there is a question you want to review their eligibility for the military service. You can generally pay to not be part of that, and generally the CBI program, you're not part of that. But, that's one thing to consider. I think people like the fact that in Turkey, it's kind of in the middle. It's not like imperious, legacy brand Western country that's racked itself up with debt, bossing their citizens around, particularly those that don't live there, and yet it has enough heft, it has diplomatic missions, it has support, it has good relationships, maybe with places where your country doesn't. So again, you're putting one foot in one foot in the other. I'm not selling you on Turkey. I'm telling you my perception of Turkey. I mostly have small country passports, and I think that's a good thing. I think it's a good thing for anyone who values personal freedom. But I can see why having Turkey as part of the portfolio would be a good thing. So one Western flag, one Eastern flag, you're more protected. I would argue that if you're from the US, UK, Australia, Canada, your current Western flag may need to be jettisoned one day if things get bad enough. Other people mentioned, hey, Turkey is at the border of the European Union, but not in it. They tried to join for many years. They gave up. Turkey is developing its manufacturing sector. They are kind of the prototype of some of these BRICS countries, some of the better ones at least. They've developed manufacturing. They're doing things internally. You may not hear much about Turkey, but if you go to that region, you'll see TVs made in Turkey. You'll see furniture made in Turkey. It's a place that has a growing place in a multipolar world that is more regional in focus. They're not a superpower, but they are a regional presence, and that has something. People like the fact that real estate is cheap there. It is not nearly as cheap as it was when I was talking to you about it in 2019 and 2020. It was darn cheap. You can still buy something dreadful, perhaps, in parts of Istanbul for $1,000 a meter. If you come to my neighborhood in Nişantaşı, you're looking at probably $3,000 a meter and up. Price of real estate all around the world has gone up, so that's still relatively affordable, but it's not dirt cheap. The other thing is people are saying, hey, no capital gains tax if I hold the property for 5 years. I have to hold the property as a citizen for 3 years, but after 5 years, no capital gains tax, so I can earn potentially some money on that property and then sell it. All that I think is interesting to people, and the fact that you can get a passport in under 12 months and that the fee doesn't go up as the family gets bigger. So let me say it for a third and final time. This is not a promotion for Turkey, but rather an explanation of a program that we've seen a spike of interest in for all the aforementioned reasons. We've helped people get citizenship in dozens of different countries, not only by investment, but through descent. We do have people who actually move to other countries and they get naturalized. We have people who get golden visas and they're just waiting out their time to get naturalized that way. Even we've had a couple people get citizenship or work on it through marriage. So there's lots of ways to skin a cat. If you go to nomadcapitalist.com/apply, you'll learn how we can help you. If you want to leave your country and put that passport to use, you can legally reduce your taxes by a lot in most cases, and we help you do that all as a one-stop shop. But if you're going to get a passport, I want you to make sure you're making the best investment that you can. Let's not buy stuff where someone's getting a $50,000 commission because you bought an overpriced apartment. All right? And again, if you're not the customer, you're the product, right? So if you come to us, you are going to pay us a fee to advise you on a whole suite of holistic services under one roof with our network of experts in Turkey and many other countries. We are going to charge you a fee. What we're not going to do is make $50,000 commission selling you an apartment. And we're going to do what I would do. We're going to tell you to do what I would do. And you listen, you want to buy a new build, you can do that, but we're going to walk you through what we think. That's the process. nomadcapitalist.com/apply is where you go. There's many other different passports. If you qualify for a passport through your ancestry, it's worth looking at that first. But then again, that's not going to take 12 months in most cases. So, so many moving factors. What do you want a passport for? Do you need it now? Do you have some tax event to plan for now? So many permutations. This is what we help the clients do. Just wanted to give you some insight, though, into why Turkey is becoming more popular.